Hey, what's going on YouTube? Um, I want to talk about affirmative action and the whole college admissions process. Every year, I work with minority families, mainly African Americans, and I help students and their families get ready for the college process in terms of planning, in terms of finances, in terms of should they stay in the dorm? Should they live off campus? So all that good stuff. And through that process, we always have a conversation about affirmative action and is it around? How does it work? And a lot of the times, it can vary. It varies in terms of the school and in terms of the school system that it's in. But I know for the UC system, and I went to a school in the UC system, they did away with affirmative action in 1978, but they still provide somewhat of a funding for minority programs to develop minority candidates to apply to the school. But I'm sure it varies. I don't know, I'm not too knowledgeable on affirmative action issues outside of California. But I feel like they should do away with it only on certain conditions. Now, I feel like they should do away with it simply because it puts a stigma or puts an asterisk by your accomplishments, right? If you get on an affirmative action, most of the time, the perception is that you were underqualified, right? Affirmative action does not mean accepting underqualified applicants, but unfortunately, we live in a world where that is the perception. And if you don't know somebody, your perception becomes the reality, whether we like it or not. That asterisk will follow you. Just imagine you go to a nice, school, get a good degree, and you come out, and you're trying to apply for a job, and the people who are hiring you kind of feel like you're only there because of the affirmative action. Now, whether that's true or not, that's how they're going to feel. They're not going to take time out of their day to see, what exactly happened. Did she get into that school because she earned it or because she was black or he was black? So that's how it can come back and bite you in the ass. And I've seen it happen, right? I've seen it happen in personal conversations where people throw out the whole idea of it's not fair to let in underqualified, and nobody said let in underqualified, but that's the automatic assumption that people put into place. But in terms of the conditions that need to happen in order for affirmative action to be done away with, there's two parts. The first part, they need to do away with legacy. I think legacy is unfair. Legacy is pretty much when you have relatives and ancestors who went to an institution before you, and because of that, you are awarded points. If you go to any Ivy League, you'll have kids talking about being a legacy. So what that means is they didn't really have to work as hard. They just had to do the bare minimum and meet the, basic requirements to get in simply because they had that legacy factor, while other students had to do extra, go above and beyond just to get somewhat of an equal chance and equal consideration. These students just have to meet the minimum requirements and they automatically get let in because their parents, probably donated, or there's like a long line of people who've went there, and that's wrong. We look at our top-notch institutions across the U.S. and we always figure that it's our best and our brightest. But a lot of the times, those kids are there simply because they're legacy. Right? I've been in many classrooms with mediocre to below average legacy-type students, but they're there just because their parents went there, and their parents kick a little nice donation check. And they have a lot of personal connects where they can call somebody and say, hey, my son's applying, and just hang up the phone and everything magically works out. I've seen it happen. I've seen cases where it's happened. I have friends who do the admissions and they're not even supposed to share this information with me, but they do. They'll get a call, this application, put it in this pile. No questions asked. Second condition, they need to do away with or develop a system in which the location of a student's high school is omitted. Right? They need to develop a process in which a high school transcript can still be authenticated in terms of not being, fake, but somehow omit the location or the exact high school to where that transcript came from. Here's why. Most students apply to colleges and universities in their local area. So as a result, the people who sit on the admissions board know the area. They know what schools are in good areas and good districts. They know the scores, and they also know the poor schools from the poorer districts. So what happens? Well, if you're a mediocre student coming from a good district in a good community, and you're being compared against a high achieving student coming from a poor school in an underachieving school district, what's going to happen? You're going to be viewed as equal, right? They're automatically going to assume that the coursework offered at the high achieving district was probably more rigorous and more challenging than that of the kid from the lower achieving type area, which is a horrible assumption since the California standards are all the same, right? Nobody should be teaching anything new. It's all laid out. So every school should be teaching the same exact material. But the perception is still that if you come from this area, you're being more challenged. And that can hurt you. It helped me based off of the high school I went to. But I've, heard stories in which there were top-notch students who applied to certain schools, but because they came from certain areas, they failed to get in. While students who did a little bit below what they got in simply because they came from a different area, right? They came from a different region that, did better on a district level. So we can develop a system where we can almost eliminate the bias of location, then I'd even feel even more confident in terms of doing away with affirmative action on, college admissions. So I guess in closing, I do stand in opposition of affirmative action. I understand that it's needed, but at the end of the day, it creates a perception that is not going to help any minority group. You don't want to get special treatment. You don't want the people around you to put an asterisk by your accomplishments. Because at the end of the day, doing well, right? I don't care in what field you're in and what you do for a living. Doing well is more so based off of your achievement, but it's also how you're perceived. If you can control how you're perceived, you're going to go far. And affirmative action changes how people perceive you because they automatically assume, and this is, not a good thing, but, reality is reality. They automatically assume that they had to lower the standards for you to get that job or for you to get in or for you to get that scholarship or whatever they have it, whatever you're trying to do and be a part of. So tell me how you feel. I'm sure you guys have some unique things to say. Take it easy. God bless.